Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do the best I can to try to compose myself with this story. I want to try to speak with much respect and love as possible because this story rocked me to my core. Because y'all know I'm a father and I'm a father of a girl, my daughter, and shout out to my daughter. I love her so much. As a father, I vividly remember my daughter being this little girl's age. And I'm going to tell you guys, it might be difficult for a lot of people to listen to these stories, but I want to remind you there is nothing more difficult than what we listen to compared to what these children actually have to live through. We can listen to First 48. We can listen to all of these TV shows. The least we can do is listen to this little baby's story and her having to live through hell on earth. Listen to this baby's story. Let me see if I can get their face up on the screen real quick. Both of them. I need both of them up here. The two individuals that you see on the left and the far right of my screen named Bianca, excuse me, no. Yes, Bianca Annie Mae Stanch and Ronald Dean Greer were found guilty of first-degree murder for the death of Greer's 4-year-old daughter by the name of Samaya Christine Cornell Downing, who is the little baby that y'all see right there on my screen. That little girl right there in the middle. Additionally, they were found guilty of torturing Samaya and guilty of child abuse with a special allegation of causing death to that little girl. Stanch and Greer were sentenced. Let me see if I can get their sentence up here. Let me see if I can find out how many years they were sentenced. I normally have this pulled up. Y'all bear with me just a moment. Ronald Dean Greer, 29 years old, and his girlfriend, Bianca Annie Mae Stanch, 27 years old, were sentenced Friday to serve 32 years in prison, 32 years to life in prison for murder. Stanch's cousin by the name of Rayshawn Larry Stanch pleaded guilty earlier this year to his own participation in this crime. Now, here's the part where I'm going to tell you guys about what this baby had to live through. So I hope you got your composure together. So here we go. And let me say thank you real quick if you're listening. Let me see. So this is the grandfather. So if the grandfather is listening, I'll respond to you after I get finished here. But if you need anything, you can type in the chat or you can inbox me here and we'll talk about that, okay? Now, the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office said that the case started back in 2012 when Samaya lived with Greer and Stanch in an apartment in Antelanto. Stanch was Greer's girlfriend, but not the mother of Samaya. According to witnesses, Stanch had an extreme dislike for Samaya and treated her poorly. Listen at this. Witnesses testified that the little girl Samaya, where y'all see right there on my screen, was subjected to daily beatings at the hands of Bianca Stanch. Greer did not intervene in any way to stop these beatings. Both Stanch and Greer also routinely used a denial of water as a form of punishment. Witnesses also testified that Stanch and Greer duct taped Samaya's wrists and ankles together on multiple occasions and left her overnight so that she could not get out to get water. The defendants had placed a deadbolt on the bedroom door with a locking mechanism on the hallway side of the door, which allowed them to lock Samaya in the room so she could not get out during the day or night. On one occasion, Samaya was able to get out to the kitchen where she drank the only liquid that she could find, which was a cleaning solution. I'm going to read that again. She was able to get out of being locked inside this room. This baby was able to get her way out. Her little body was thirsty. She needed something, anything to drink. And the baby drank the only liquid that she could find, which was a cleaning solution. Evidence at the trial showed that Samaya was beaten and forced to stand in the corner for 8 hours on the day before her death. The abuse continued the next day when Stanch beat Samaya all over her body with belts and cords. And I want to remind you guys that I am the main person all over the internet that has been telling you guys for the past 3 years, 36 months straight, to not put your hands, feet, or other objects on these children. If you have to spank, if you have to hit, if you have to push, if you have to grab, if you have to yell, if you have to be physical with children in order to get them to go in the direction that you want them to go, or get these children to do what it is that you want them to do, if you have to be physical with them, then you are a horrible parent. You are not fit to be a parent if you can't reason with a child, teach a child, and that child absorb your teachings in a productive way. That takes love, and that takes giving children respect. It takes giving children time, and it takes patience. If you are still spanking your children in 2021, you need to stop. Stop hitting them kids. You can't beat your girlfriend with a belt. You can't beat your husband with a belt. You can't beat anybody. You can't beat any adult with a belt. Why can you beat somebody who can't speak for themselves nor defend themselves? How does that even make any sense? Somebody who's a quarter of your size, you can beat them all day, and we got to debate whether that's okay or not. Like, what kind of shit is that? That's why I've been telling you guys for years to stop. Children and babies are like sponges. You will get out what you put into them. When you beat and spank a child, they don't learn respect. Let me say that again for the people in the back who might not have heard what I just said. When you spank and beat any human being, they do not learn to respect you. You are teaching them to fear you. All they learn is fear. Can children grow up and grow out of that fear and become productive people? Yes, they could grow out of the abuse. Yeah, sure. A lot of human beings have been resilient enough, but not everybody is that resilient. And it's a horrible way. It's a Neanderthal method to raise children. Don't talk about, well, that's the way I grew up. Well, you know what? Some of your ancestors grew up in slavery. Do we want to go back to that? We talk about slavery being such a bad thing. But one of the things that they did in slavery, some people, a very small group of people, not all, because the majority of those people back then couldn't afford slaves and did not have slaves to be known. And some black people actually owned slaves, but we'll talk about that at some other time. But they used those whips and beat those people as their property. And if you think about it, we treat children like property, do we not? Can we get a hashtag, babies for benefits? Huh? That's what my shirt represents. We treat these children like property. They are not property. They are our legacy. They are our children. They should be loved and respected. You give them love and respect, and that respect will do what? It will reciprocate. That's something I've been saying for a long time. Respect will reciprocate. Don't demand it, give it. Do not demand it, give it. Okay? Let's move on. Not only did they beat her all over her body with belts and cords, but Stanch then poured a pot of boiling water on Samaya's back and her chest. But I'm sure somebody out there is going to make an excuse for that. So I guess that makes sense in somebody's household to take a pot of boiling water and pour it on a child. This individual and that individual on the far right side, that's what they did. Samaya was also denied water to drink during these final days of her life. On the evening of her death, Samaya began acting lethargic and sleepy. She was locked inside a bedroom within the apartment and was left with Stanch's cousin by the name of Rayshawn Stanch, while Stanch and Greer went to dinner and enjoyed getting fat and full while that baby starved to death. Another bit of very difficult information to hear. Once Stanch and Greer returned to the apartment, they discovered that Samaya had died. Stanch, Greer, and Rayshawn didn't call 911, didn't call the police, didn't administer medical aid. They didn't do CPR. You know what they did? You know what those 3 Negro Musketeers did? They took that baby's dead body out to the desert where she was buried. An autopsy revealed that her cause of death was dehydration. I want y'all to remember that the little girl's body had to have been somewhat resilient, because when she finally was able to force her small, tiny self out of that room and found the only liquid she could find, she drank cleaning solution. And even that didn't kill her. At the time of her death, Samaya's weight placed her in the 5th percentile for her age. Samaya had been in the 50th percentile for her weight just 6 months before her death. Unfortunately, the case encountered several delays in going forward throughout the years. However, the deputy district attorney assigned to getting justice for Samaya stayed committed to the case and did not waver in any manner. So let me give you guys some details about the court case. The trial was set to begin several times over the years, but continued at the defense request over the prosecutor's objections. Finally, the case was set to start trial of March of 2020, but y'all know how that went with COVID, so it got stalled again. As soon as the Superior Court indicated criminal trials would resume in a limited capacity, our office pushed for this case to be given priority to avoid any other delays. The trial included 6 weeks of evidence, and the prosecution called over 20 witnesses in their efforts to achieve justice for Samaya, that baby. Friends, family members, and teachers testified about the sweet and happy little girl that they knew and loved. Greer took the stand in his own defense, and he denied being aware of the abuse his daughter had endured. Several inconsistencies emerged during cross-examination on the events of 2012 and what Greer knew about how Samaya was being treated. We thank the jury for listening to the facts of this case and rendering the correct verdict in this case. Note that Rayshawn Stanch pled guilty earlier this year to his involvement in the crime. If you are aware of abuse of a child, please call 911, but most of us don't need to be told that. We already understand that. You may be their only hope, and you could be saving their life. Like we say, if you see something, say something. If you are a parent or a guardian of a child and experiencing frustration, anger, or helplessness, please reach out for help. A lot of you guys have reached out to me for help, and I've actually tried to guide some people and give them some helpful information. So you can always email me at theafcmatters@gmail.com. There are plenty of resources available which will help you while keeping your children safe from verbal, psychological, and physical abuse. But I do want to remind you guys that when you email me, I'm usually in a limited capacity. If you have witnessed a crime, if you have evidence, you need to call the police, not me. If you have witnessed a crime, have video evidence, photo evidence, or something like that pertaining to a crime, you call the police. You don't email me about a crime, okay? Because if you email me, I'm going to get in touch with the police about it. But for me, my advice is more on a general basis of advice if you're running into some difficulties, and I try to help guide you or at least lead you to a place that can help you. Let me say this. Torturing a child in San Bernardino County will be met with the most vigorous of prosecutions, and those responsible will be held accountable for their actions. When Samaya was murdered, our community was also greatly affected by the actions of her killers. From Samaya's extended family, friends, and teachers, to the law enforcement officers investigating this crime, to everyone in the district attorney's office that had a part in this case, we will always hold Samaya in our memory and in our hearts. 32 years to life in prison. Why not just say life? For that father to try to come out and act like he didn't know what was going on, for your biological child, you should have made it your priority. I don't know why you do anything else. But not only do I think he's lying about that, you would have had to have known about the deadbolt on the door. You would have had to know the condition that your daughter was in. You would have had to know that she was dehydrated, being deprived of being able to eat. Everybody involved in that case should have got life in prison. What is this little girl supposed to do? What are little girls like Samaya supposed to do who cannot speak for themselves, who cannot defend themselves against the tyranny of anybody who's raising them? What are they supposed to do? What we are supposed to do in our society is vote for the right people to be in these judges' seats, to be in these prosecutor seats. You guys have to vote and pick the right people. We have to stand for justice and not settle for anything less. For this case to go this long, let me say this. It should be a damn crime for this case to have been sitting for as long as it has. COVID only started last year. It hadn't been going on this entire time, and that's why all of those delays happened. That was a failure on their part. The court's fault. The prosecutor's fault. The attorney's fault. It was all their fault to allow that much time to go and for y'all not to have resolution way before now. Some justice is good, but us and the AFC, the advocates for children first, we like swift justice, especially when it comes to those who cannot speak for themselves, those who cannot defend themselves, and they depend on us for every single thing that they get. We need swift justice against those who will continue to use children only for the benefits that they can get off of those children. Another thing I want to point out is I don't know what the role of the biological mother was. Where was the mother? It's a great question. I didn't read anything about a biological mother, but it just seemed like everybody that was around this baby failed her. In this case, It was dad's responsibility to make sure that he chose a suitable mate, which he did not. And the dad wasn't very good to his daughter at all and caused her death. And I hope her soul is resting in peace in heaven right now. Like I say, some justice is good, but we got to take a stronger stance and a much quicker stance against people who hurt and harm children. They depend on us for everything that they get. To baby Samaya, young princess, R.I.P. And I'm sorry that justice was delayed. And I don't really think that we did your name much justice, especially for it taking this long. There's still a lot of unanswered questions, and maybe we'll never get all the answers, but what we can do is we can make examples out of people like that and get much swifter justice. We cannot allow people who hurt children to go unpunished. Thank you guys so much for listening to Samaya's story, and I hope you guys listen with an open mind and an open heart. And I hope that you guys also listen and absorb my message when it comes to being physical and physically disciplining your children. That needs to stop, and it needs to stop today. If you need tips about how to go about being better with your discipline, with some people, I can't help everybody, but I can definitely try to help some people. But more than anything, we have to make sure and put into children what we want out. If you don't want violence and disrespect, then don't put that into children. Put love into them. Put respect into them. Okay? And we pray that they can grow up and become something great. From my heart to yours. I love you guys, and thank you guys so much for listening to the AFC podcast with an open mind and an open heart. We'll see you guys on the next stream. Please make sure you hit the thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe to our channel, the AFC podcast, where we put children as our #1 priority. Y'all have a great day and have a great night. Peace.